Mindset is everything. What you're thinking is everything. You can be your biggest cheerleader, or you could really be the person that is holding you back. And sometimes you don't even realize what you're doing. That's the thing that you can change for sure. You may not be able to change the divorce or this fight with this person, or maybe you got in a car accident and you have to fix all the things, like all that stuff you can't change that. You just have to go with what the next step is with that. But you can change how you think about yourself and how you encourage yourself and how you show up for yourself.
I am Lisa Roers, former executive coach turned podcaster and digital course creator. Just a few years ago, my typically unwavering optimism was put to the test when my autoimmune system went sideways and handcuffed my dreams to positively impact the world. Fast forward, though, through years of failed experiments, dozens of doctors, and countless hours of research, and I am now a healthy, thriving CEO of a business that is positively impacting the world by empowering people to exchange fear for fortitude and dis-ease for durability. I created the Sunshine Cafe podcast to give you strategies to be your best self-advocate so you can focus on the things which light you up. If you're looking for hope and encouragement to live a life you love, then you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Sunshine Cafe. I'm Lisa Roers, your host, and today we're talking about getting a hold of your mindset, kind of a mindset reset of sorts. This topic is so important that we're going to dive into it even deeper in an upcoming episode, but today will be a bit of an introduction for you. What is mindset anyway? Well, in a word, it's everything. In the Stanford report from September 15th, 2021, Mia Primo writes this: "You see life through your own unique lens. This is your mindset. The assumptions, the expectations you hold about yourself and your life, the situations around you. Research shows that mindsets play a significant role in determining life's outcomes. By understanding, adapting, and shifting your mindset, you can improve your health, decrease your stress, and become more resilient to life's challenges." I couldn't agree more with you, Mia, and I know my guest today will agree as well. Today, Shauna Buno joins me for a great conversation about mindset. She calls it her brain dragon, or building her mind muscle. Shauna is a certified life coach, a mindset coach, and an interventional radiology technologist. She's also a mother of 3. Shauna's been working with mindset and mental health and wellness for over 12 years. She coaches and encourages busy moms to take time for themselves and helps remind moms to prioritize their own identities, their goals, and their dreams. By providing the encouragement they need to take action, Shauna helps her clients reach the goals and outcomes that they want to reach so they can live a life they love. And we're all about that here at the Sunshine Cafe. When Shauna's not coaching or at the hospital, you'll usually find her with her 3 children, playing games on game night, or making some amazing memories on an epic camping or beach adventure. I think you'll really enjoy the conversation, and more than that, she's going to offer you some great tools that you can implement today to start building your mind muscle and taking a hold of your mindset to improve your whole life. Let's dive in. Well, welcome back to the Sunshine Cafe. Shauna Buno is going to teach us how to wrap our heads around our mindsets in a way that will empower us and get us on the right path. So I'm really excited to have you with us, Shauna. Thanks for coming and welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, well, you've shared some wonderful stories about how mindset is so important to whether we're encouraged or not, how we're living our best life, just how to get started, how to move forward. And you've got some wonderful ways of reframing our mindset. So maybe you can share a little bit about how that played it out in your life and some
Oh,
of the
yeah.
pivot points that kind of came around that.
Yeah, sure. Mindset is everything. What you're thinking is everything. You can be your biggest cheerleader, or you could really be the person that is holding you back. And sometimes it's not even when you're realizing you're doing it. Sometimes you don't even realize what you're doing. The first way that I like to help people out is like really understand what you're actually thinking. In all the busyness that we're doing, day to day, next thing, check the boxes. Sometimes we get lost in that. And we don't think about what we're thinking about because it's also a habit. It's also a routine of what our thoughts are. And it's built through all of our circumstances, experiences, and what we've gone through in our lives is how we run that dialogue on the inside. And so it's super important to understand first, what dialogue do you actually have? Like, what is actually running in your head? How is this? Are you really that mean girl inside? Is, how much of it is there? Is your mean girl really mean or just a little bit? You got to have the scale and really see and be aware of it because it will hold you back if you don't fully understand it, right? So usually what I do is I challenge people to take a full day or take a couple of days. And I ask them to keep track of what their thoughts are. Anything, even if they think it's ridiculous. If they think it's ridiculous, crazy, whatever. If it pops into your head, write it down. Put it in your phone. Do whatever you have to do. Fill up a whole sheet of paper if you're writing it down. Take different sections of your day, mornings, night, in the afternoon, when bad things happen, when good things happen. Do all of it, all of it. Make sure you're getting your thoughts down. And then take a break, go back and look at it and really see what you are actually saying. Really see what the thoughts are that you're actually saying. When I first was getting into this whole mindset thing and like really working out I call it like my mind muscle, a lot of the tips and stuff, I was like, I'm not going to do that. I know, like I know me best. I know, blah, blah, blah. And then I sat there and thought about it. And I'm like, what if I don't? What do I have to lose really to try this? Right. I was being a little stubborn. And then I tried it and my mind was blown. My mind was blown because I had been working with mindset and I had been working with perspective and really doing self-work, self-care and really working with myself and thinking I think I do like it's there and I work with it, but I don't think it's that much. And then I did this challenge and I was like, okay, so
A lot more going on there than I
maybe
thought.
yeah, maybe that's a little different than I thought it was. I was like, holy moly, it was definitely an eye opener for me. And I realized I needed to work on some things. Like I had been working on it, but now it's like next level. Now I really want to change this. I do not want to keep saying these things. I do not want to put myself down. We have to do life. And that can be hard with all of the things around us. And so building our mind muscle first and getting that in tune, especially with what I was going through at the time, was going to help me get through that and in a different light, not so hard, not like trudging through the mud at your waist, if you will, maybe at ankle level. So maybe
Mhm.
it's still hard, but it's not like you're really, really
Right.
making it harder for yourself.
Right.
So I took these thoughts and I looked at them and reviewed him, had the realization that I was not so nice to myself and I wasn't even paying attention to what was going on because it would be during situations and circumstances like at work, I'm really busy, something's happening, I'm having the thoughts, I'm recording the thoughts and moving on to the next thing. Without recording those thoughts, I would have just moved to the next thing, right?
Yeah.
And it would have just passed by, but I still had the thought. It was still
Mhm.
there. It was
Yeah.
still going through me. So it's kind of like checking yourself also. So what I needed to do was change that. I'm like, I am not doing that anymore. I need to be building myself up. I need to be making my mind muscle strong, if you will, so I can move through these situations easier and smoother when they're hard. Because hard situations are going to be hard and you learn so much and you grow and
Mhm.
you may not realize it, at the time.
Mhm.
But if you are your biggest cheerleader, it's going to make it easier. It's going to make it smoother.
Well, it's one less thing dragging you down. You might as well eliminate one thing you have control over, right?
Exactly. Exactly. That's the thing that you can change for sure. You may not change, you may not be able to change the divorce or this fight with this person, or maybe you got in a car accident. You have to fix all the things, like all that stuff you can't change that. You just have to go with what, the next step is with that. But you can change how you think about yourself and how
Mhm.
you encourage yourself and how you show up for yourself.
Right.
So, check yourself and really work with that. I have a funny situation. I'll tell you a little story of how I retrained myself on how I was talking to myself. So I took these thoughts and I'm like, this has to change. How do I do that? And I was kind of playing around with the ways of how to do it. And I lived in this house. I was renting at the time, and all of our pipes burst, and it was a total disaster. We had
Mhm.
all these dehumidifiers and fans and all this stuff, and the floors were leaking. We had 3 kiddos at the time, and 2 of them were in diapers, and it was like, this is not safe. We need to get out of here. So
Wow.
we ended up moving into this new place that was so much better all around, space, all the things. We moved into this new place, and they had left a mirror at the end of the hallway on the upper floor where all of my kiddos' rooms were. And so when you're, going down the hallway a bunch of times and you have your kids' rooms are in there, you're going to be going down the hallway all the time. And so I noticed when I was going down the hallway that I was critiquing myself. I was doing the little mind challenge thing, right? And I was critiquing myself and looking at myself. I would critique about my clothes, my hair. Oh, I should have put makeup on today. Like really messed up stuff.
All the things that were wrong with you as you were walking down the hallway.
Totally. And it was like, I stopped for a second. And I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? This is bananas crazy. I'm literally walking down and it's, it's at the end of the hallway. So I got the whole hallway to do this, So it's like, why am I doing that? And so I'm like, no. So I have a technique of how I rewired that with this mirror. So I noticed that every time I was going down the mirror and it would be, oh man, you should not be wearing that shirt today. And I was like, pause. I would be like, excuse me? I'd either in my head or say it out loud. I would turn away from the mirror and then I would be like, you know what? You look really good today. And then I turn back around to the mirror and be like, you look really good today. And at first it was awful. At first it was like forcing myself to say the thing I didn't want to say.
Out loud, you make you feel like you're crazy, right? You're talking to yourself out loud to a mirror.
Yes, this is crazy. I'm talking to myself and I'm talking to a mirror. I felt so uncomfortable. And because I was the mean girl to myself, it felt like the mean girl was offended that I was saying the thing in the mirror, like, oh man, you're crazy, blah, blah, blah. Like trying to, make you feel crazy so you stop doing the thing. And so I was like, I'm going to practice this and just see how it goes. What do I have to lose here to talk nice to myself? Great, let's try it out, right? So every time I would go down this hallway and this thought or a thought or what have you was not nice, I would stop, turn around. I would make that noise, like a screeching noise of stopping in my head, turn around, and I would reframe whatever it was. If it was about my clothes, I would say something nice about what I was wearing. If it was how I looked for weight, I would say, you're looking really good today, or you're looking thinner in your arms, or whatever. I would say the thing that was nice about myself, turn around and say it again. And then after doing this, I had a lot of practice with this. After doing this for a while, I remember one time I also have a linen closet in this hallway. So not only my kids' rooms, but the linen closet. And I was putting the towels away. And I remember carrying the basket and I turned and it was the mirror. And I turned and I go walking down the hallway and I look in the mirror and I was like, whoa, you look good today. And I was like, whoa. And I got like tinglies and I'm like, yes,
something changed.
Yeah. I was like, I did that. Look at what I did. And I totally rewired myself to look for the positive things in myself by practicing it. And I was like, okay, was that a one-time thing? Like noted, right? Celebrated it, got all tingly. And then later on, after doing that, going down the hallway, I started to notice that I was giving myself compliments subconsciously because I had practiced it so much.
Right.
And I was like, this is amazing. Like if I can change this with a mirror and practicing it, if I can change this, I can change how I speak to in a whole different level. Like, yeah, you can change how you talk to yourself. Yeah, you can encourage yourself, but this is a whole different level. And so I'm like, whoa. And then I got all crazy with it. I'm like, how can I do that? And I was getting into it and how I can be my biggest cheerleader and what the next steps I can do and how do I go to the next level and what else can I do and how do I remind myself? And it was so motivating because I had solid proof of how I did it and how it made me feel. And so I talk about that a lot because it's so cool that you can do that. Like you can do that. You're not stuck. It's not like, oh, this is just how I am. Yeah, that's part of it, but you can change that. You totally change that. You can rewire the pathways. That's scientifically proven you can do it.
And you experienced it firsthand. So now you have this empowerment, this confidence to press on and try other things that are similar in that vein.
Yes. Yes. It was really cool. It was really cool. And so now I try to reframe it with my kids too. If they get discouraged and they say the thing, I will kind of be like, well, let's try saying it like, oh, I tried. Let's try a different way next time. Instead of like, oh, I can't do this. Well, that way didn't work, but what way could work? Like asking questions as they're saying it just to get their little minds to flip to think about the other way. So
Hmm.
then maybe I can help wire their brains to be already nicer to themselves instead
Sure.
of starting with a really big mean girl, you know? I call mine my brain dragon. So how I can explain my brain dragon is you have your true self of who you are, and then you have your ego side, which you need to have. You need to have your ego side. It kind of helps you, balance things out, but you have to pay attention on how sometimes your ego gets a little crazy and out of control. That's why I call it the brain dragon, because I feel like you can train a dragon.
Hmm.
Right? And so how I look at it as sometimes it wants to swoop in and really keep you from doing things, and it says messed up stuff and has you believe certain things. And sometimes it's just a little bit, and you have to build a relationship with that. You have to build a relationship with your mean girl or brain dragon to know when it's showing up, where it's showing up, how you can rewire that so it's not going to show up in those situations. You're wired as a human for safety and for things from ages ago,
Hmm.
and it's still here, but now your ego's taking that and can inflate it to something else and kind of play on that. And that's the secret of, building your relationship with that so you can kind of tame your dragon, if you will. And
Hmm.
once you realize and see it, you can do so much more. You can have less guilt. You can have more encouragement and motivation for yourself. You have more confidence, more belief in yourself once you understand that relationship, because the ego isn't you, it's separate. That's also why I call it a brain dragon,
Yeah.
because it's not me. It's not who I actually am and what I actually want in my life. It's with me, but it's not me.
Right. Once you train the dragon and you understand that that dragon is now on your side, is a cheerleader of yours, you can start trusting yourself even more so because you
Right.
know that the dragon, the ego will be there to protect you, but she will also be there to keep you safe and to cheerlead you through a challenging new endeavor.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You definitely building a relationship with it to understand, yes, it's there for a reason. It is there for a
Mhm.
reason. You just have to know when the reason's ridiculous or not.
Yeah, exactly. I love the screeching halt that you heard in your head as you were coming down the mirror hallway. Like, no, stop. I'm going to rephrase that and start again. I love that.
Yeah, any way you can disrupt the pattern, any way you can disrupt it. Imagine it if, I like to believe by and large we're kind to others, so it's kind of hard to imagine this. But imagine if somebody's verbally in front of you and they're saying mean things and you do something crazy to stop them in mid-sentence to be like, "Wait, what?" And
Yeah.
then it throws them off, right? It throws them off to continue the thing. That's kind of why I made the noise in my head or sometimes out loud. Like if I was alone, I would make it out loud
Yeah.
and just to stop, hit the pause button, stop it, and be able to retrain it. Stuck that mean girl enough just to retrain it. So then she's like, wait, scratching her head, like, what happened? What just
Yeah.
happened?
Well, I think those audible cues, whether it's out loud or in your head, I think are really important because it does shift our thinking and cues us to get out of that mentality of what you were doing and gets you into a better thought process that's more empowering and healing.
Yes. I do think that there is another hurdle at times that people have to get over is, you know, there's a societal judgment of if you talk to yourself, you're crazy, or if you have voice that like if you're, thinking about your thoughts in your head and all of that, like, am I crazy? And you're not. If you do the challenge and you see how much you actually talk to yourself, it actually enlightens you and shows you got more conversations going on in there than you realize. It's not just when things are really big, it's happening all the time. And to just get over that hurdle that, yeah, it's okay, but everything starts with a thought. How you're feeling during the day, how you progress through a situation or what I call a tornado,
Mhm.
all of that stuff starts with your thoughts because your thoughts are going to form your perception of this situation. So it's hard already. So let's not make it as hard so you can get through to the other side easier while you're going through the situation, you know?
Mhm. Absolutely. I love that story. The hall, the mirror, training the dragon.
Yeah.
So, since that experience when you were walking back and forth down that hallway so many times, you said you've applied it to other areas of your life. What kinds of other openings has that created for you?
Well, I started with just how I talk to myself, and then I work inside the home as a coach for busy women, and I also work outside of the home. I work in the medical field, and It's a struggle and has been a struggle. And so I've had to work on my thought process and how I think when I go to the hospital. The reason it's been a struggle, as we all know, is the pandemic hit and everything changed. Everything changed. It would be hard for me during the pandemic to go, right? It was hard to show up. We were required to show up. We were not the ones working from home, and we were front line right there. And so I had to do a lot of mental work with that, looking at how I was framing and how I was saying to myself, instead of being like, oh my gosh, I have to go to work today. I don't want to go to work today. What's that going to do for my whole day? My whole day is just not going to be fun. I'm not going to want to be there. It's going to be like literally trudging through the mud. And I did not want that. So I would have to look at what is the positive, what is the light in the situation that I can focus on and look at on why I am choosing to go to work. Because ultimately everything is a choice, right? I am choosing to go there. So why am I choosing to go there? I am choosing to go there to work, one, to help my patients that are sick, two, to provide for my family and my kids, because me choosing to go here is helping provide for my family and my children
Mhm.
and helping others. And me being able to have more days of freedom by having these extra hours at the hospital. And so looking at those three things, it was more or less me retraining instead of being like, oh my gosh, I don't want to. It was like, nope, no, thank you. That we're not going to say that today. Today, we're going to have a good day. I'm choosing to go to work so I can provide for my patients and my family.
Mhm.
And I just kept saying that to myself. And I found that it was easier for me to get up. It was like, okay, we can get up now. We can go in and do the work that I had to do, and then not feeling so crappy all day because I've set it ahead of time.
Yeah.
It takes work, but it definitely had changed my perception of how hard it really was to go in was different now because of
Yeah.
what I was choosing to focus my thoughts and reframing them as I was going.
All right, because you were starting your day when already in this waist deep. I love that analogy too, that waist deep of mud. Starting out your day to say that this is going to be a bad day. I don't want to go. I don't want to do this. And all those negative things instead of saying the positive, why you're going and what you're going to get from it. It's a much better way to frame it.
Yeah. Thank you for the mirror. Like, little did I know I was going to move into
Right.
this house and all this stuff was going to change inside my brain because of that one mirror. It's so funny how sometimes unexpected things come out of nowhere, or sometimes your biggest lessons, and can help you, really change some things around for your whole life.
Yeah. Kind of makes me want to go buy a mirror and put it up at the end of my hallway. uh,
I love it. I love it.
Okay, so you've made the mental change, you've trained your dragon, you have a little bit of that under control, and I'm sure that gets easier as you proceed. The first revelation of, "Oh, wow, I'm actually doing this." And once you've acknowledged that and you have that awareness, then you can move into the training part. And then now you're applying it to different areas of your life like work. How do you stay accountable in that space to keep pressing forward to new things and not slip back into those old habits?
I think it's a struggle at first just because you're so used to it, right? As anything, when you're changing something around and you have new things, if accountability is a struggle anyway, you need to call in your village, whatever that is,
Sure.
right? To help you out. You can, phone a friend, make reminders that are visual that you can see that can trigger you to remember. Have accountability people. I have many accountability people for different aspects of my life, and just chatting with them and meeting with them. Coaches are a good accountability person, counselors are a good accountability person, best friends, family members, all of those things. It depends on what you want to surround yourself with for your village to stay accountable, because when people are helping you and lifting you up, also you have more of a sense of, I'm able to do this, right? I'm able to do this. But it really, really starts with how it makes you feel. If you really tune in on how you feel about something when you don't do it, and then when you do it, how different that feels, that is going to be the beginning driving force, right? You are going to know, like, wow, I felt so much better today. I don't want to feel like I did yesterday. That's awful. I don't want to do that. And so if you can really tune into how this makes you feel and how it's going to get the motivation and ball rolling once you're cued into that. And then, of course, calling in your village to help you stay accountable for that.
Yeah. No, I love that because it is being aware of the differences in how you feel and knowing that you have control over that. You can actually change how you feel from day to
Mhm,
day by
mhm.
just self-talk, flipping the self-speak and really becoming an advocate for yourself in the instance, in that moment of speaking poorly to yourself.
Hmm.
Really
Yes.
great. And now I know a little bit about your story that our listeners don't know. I know that there's been a lot of other things you've healed through and some struggles that you've been able to pull yourself out of. And there's all kinds of storms. You mentioned a tornado or a hurricane or whatever kind of storms, whether they're real or just emotional storms and things that we're dealing with. Do you have any tips or strategies, ways that you could share with how you got through those storms? And when you're at that moment where you're low and you just don't feel like you can press forward, like you can't even muster up the energy to reach out to the village, how do you press forward?
That's a really good one. I love this. So because that happens, right? It comes in waves. Like these next few months could be totally amazing, and then you have a
Mhm.
bad week. So it it comes and goes, through life.
Yeah, the dip always shows up. I just don't never
Yeah,
know when.
yeah, and having a plan in place of what you're gonna do is very helpful. So for me, I have two ways of how I personally do this, but how I also ask my clients and things on what they can do. But one way is having a plan in place. So what are things that fill you up? What are things that make you feel better? Make a list of it. So if you're on the scale of zero motivation to on the scale of, yeah, I got motivation, I can do the things. I feel like I don't have time or what have you, that type of situation. So if it's just take 10 minutes by yourself, or being quiet, or take a nap, or read a book, or go for a walk, or things you can do that are smaller, that are around your house or in your neighborhood that you can do that's going to get you moving and that's going
Mhm.
to get you out of that space. So, how I think of
Mm.
it for me, if I was not feeling it, like last month, there was a whole week where I was just like, meh, like I was not in it. I was just not feeling it. It was just different. And I was just like, no, I want to sleep a little longer today. I don't really want to get up. It was just, yeah, again, my dragon's trying to keep me in bed and, oh, but it's comfy in here, and you have to get uncomfortable for growth. That's like that's just the way that it
Mm.
is.
Mhm.
So I could have stayed in bed. I was like, no, I need to move away from this space because in this space right now, yes, it's comfortable, right? Yes, I could sleep more. I could totally snuggle up all snuggly in my blankets and be like, yeah, this is so much better. I could do that. And the whole day I'm still going to feel the same, right? Because if you don't change anything, nothing's going to change. If you don't change anything, nothing is changing. So I'm like, what can I do? And the only thing that I could do was go for a walk. I have different loops in my neighborhood. I have a small loop, I have a big loop, and then I have a big long one that's almost 3 miles. And so I'm like, I'm just going to do the little loop because that's all I got right now. And I felt kind of like a kiddo, like, I don't want to, inside. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go for a walk. And I'm just like, I'm doing it. It's almost an argument. Like, I'm doing it, I'm going. And so I did the loop. And after my loop, I was like, okay, I'm moving away from the space where I was contained with all this confliction in my head.
Mhm.
I'm moving my body. I'm trying to get it out of there, work it out of there. And I came back and I was like, you know, I might still not be feeling it as much, but I am definitely not where I was at before. So that's progress. It doesn't have to be a leap. So
Sure. Yep.
so coming up with those steps of when you feel like you just don't want to do anything, what are some things you can do? The one little thing you can do. And sometimes it is taking a nap. Sometimes you need more rest. Sometimes it is that way, but you're the only one that's going to know what's best for you in that moment to not keep you stuck and
Yeah.
to keep you moving, right? And so it's the one thing that you can do from where you are with everything that you have. There's always one movement you can have, and you may not like it. I was like, I don't want to go for a walk. I wasn't liking it, but I did it. Is the walk going to hurt me? No. Am I going to benefit from this? Yes. So let's go.
Yep.
I usually work out pretty hard. So if you're a person that works out pretty hard and you're like, I just need to go for a walk, that's fine. You don't have to go do the workout that you normally did. You just have to move. You just have to do something, move and do something different that is not what you would have normally doing. If that is a walk, then that is fine. Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
So start there. And it's going to look different for everybody. It's not always going to be the same. So then the other one is for me, like you said, I had some pretty hard situations in my life that I had to work through. And I was done being sad and depressed about it and just feeling like crap. Like I was just done. And so it's not new, but I came up with this as a kiddo, just thinking about stuff like, what can I do? and then practicing it over time. And when I say a kiddo, I'm talking like teenager. We're not talking little, but I was done with it. And so when bad situations would happen, I would shift my point of view or shift my perspective. And how I would do that was finding the light, even if it was a speck in this big, huge storm where you're like, there's no positivity here. There's nothing positive about this. There is. I'm telling you, there is. I know that it may be very hard to see, and you might not be able to see it in the beginning, but there's always something positive. And it may not be right in that moment. It could have been something that has happened prior to, or for example, I lost somebody that was near and dear to me. And I remember thinking at the time, how is this positive? Like, how can I find anything positive? Like, this whole entire thing is awful. This whole situation is awful. This outcome is awful. Everything is awful. And I had to sit with it. And it took me a couple of days. But I refuse to believe that there's not some positivity here that I can see. And I had to really sit with it because I was also grieving. So you got to feel the feels and do the feeling stuff and really don't shove it aside. But also there is something there. So I ended up looking at the situation is I got to be with this person. We got to share part of our life together. And I've learned these things from this person. And this person was a huge impact on how I looked at things in life and how I've moved through some of the things in my life and had made my life better. And to me, that's the positive in the situation. It is unfortunate that they are no longer here. It is unfortunate that it had to happen the way that it did. At the same time, I'm grateful that I was in that person's life, and that is the positive, remembering the funny, remembering the connection and that way. And also seeing once he passed, seeing all these people come together to support each other. That is a positive.
Sure.
Being there for each other, doing that is the positive. So feeling the awfulness and feeling the situation that you wish didn't come, but is here, working through that, but also looking at how amazing this is. Look at how amazing all these people are coming together and supportive and being here for each other. And that's when people get really raw and the feelings of how they feel about situations. Having this person in your life, having these learned experiences, having that, that's one scenario and situation that I can describe on how I do it is, it's there is a positive in the situation. It might feel really heavy and it might feel like this is not okay. I do not like any of this. That's fine. It doesn't need to be instantly, but there is somewhere in there. There is some positive. There is some speck of light that you can look at and be appreciative and happy for and be grateful that is there also, right? There's always good with the bad, right? So you can, again, choose if you want to be stuck and you want to be over here and looking at that. It's hard. It's not easy. It's hard, but you remember you got to get uncomfortable for a change and something has to change in order for other things to change. So you can feel the feels and go through it and grieve and do all of that stuff. That's natural. That's what you're supposed to do with anything. That can be with anything. It could be with any turmoil, financially, divorces, anything like that.
Sure.
But then just be mindful, like there is a positive, reminding there is a positive, there is a speck of light here. What is that? And just being open to seeing it. And then once you see it, then you're going to see more. It'll start coming out. You'll see more. It's there. You just got to work at it. And sometimes it's not right away, and that's okay. It doesn't need to be right away.
Right. But eventually you get out of the darkness. You
Yeah.
find the speck of light. And sometimes it's kind of like you're in this cave. And at some point you can turn around and see that there is a small speck of light at the end of the tunnel there. And you just need to slowly move toward it. But even in the loss of somebody, in a death of somebody, we can celebrate the joys that they brought into our life and carry their legacy forward. If and when I pass, I wouldn't want people mourning for too long. I want them to remember the things that I brought into the world that were joyful and use that to propel them forward, not to be mourning for too long. I mean, there is, like you said, you do need to take that time. But I guess the challenge is to recognize when you're slipping into that for too long, when you slipped into it and you're stuck and you're not getting out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a very wise, beyond your years kind of perspective to have as a young adult, to have looked at what positive can I possibly find in that storm that you were going through.
I think it was just because I felt like there was so much heaviness and I was searching for something different. And that's how I was like, oh, okay, well, if I
Yeah.
search for this and I see this, then I start seeing more and then more and more. And then I'm like, okay. And so I got into a pattern of doing that.
Yeah, I'm sure having that tool of looking for the light and looking for something positive was really a saving grace for you many times.
Yeah, speaking of that, with living with addiction in your home, I feel it's more or less like it's not dips, it's like peaks and valleys. Like it's either really good or it's really bad. There's not really a normal wave, if you will. And so when things feel really bad, I'm just like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to be stuck here in this forever. And I think
Mhm.
that because it was so heavy, you just have to figure out how that's going to be for you me moving forward, like what are the things that I like? What are the things that make me happy? Because when things like this happen, the bad stuff that was happening, I'm like, I'm just no.
Yeah. Yeah, you no
Yeah.
control over that, so, you're choosing things that you did have control over and that you could put into your life, which is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here you are,
Yeah.
making a difference in other people's lives by sharing your tools and strategies for how to shift that mindset and get people into a better place. Everybody's got an addiction of some sort, I think. That's my regular theory. You're either addicted to shopping or you're addicted to food or you're addicted to, I don't know, fill in the blank. There's a bunch of bad ones and a bunch of a little less bad ones, but in general, they all follow similar thought patterns. I can't live without fill in the blank, you know? And that can even be a person or a place, a thing. It doesn't have to be a drug or alcohol or a particular behavior. That propensity to be addicted to something is a very human quality. So
Right.
I think what you said earlier in our conversation about really wrestling that mindset is a huge piece of it because that can get us out of those addictive thoughts and addictive patterns as much as anything. That is where it all starts. It all starts in the mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Thoughts become things. So if you can understand where your thoughts are coming from and how to work with them,
Mhm.
it becomes your results. So working with them becomes your results. And if you want it to change, then you got to start changing with the way that you're thinking and changing then follows up with action. So
Yeah. That's great. I love that your website and all of your tools are around this idea of ignited decisions. That word is just such a good launch point because it's the spark that creates good decisions. How did you get to that title and what kinds of things do you do with your website and resources?
that's funny that you asked that because that was one of the words that I was like, "This has to stay in the name," when I was thinking of it, because I thought of it like how you said it. When you are in the busyness of life and things are happening or you're just doing your regular things, we can get stuck on this hamster wheel, and I call in the fog. It's almost like we're walking around in this cloud, if you will,
Mhm.
and not realizing it. Sometimes it's not purposeful, and for me at the time when I opened my business, helping people really ignites that fire inside of me. I love helping others. I love making others be happy or feel good. Hence why I was in the medical field to begin with. I want to help them have a better life in some way. And so with this business, it really ignited a fire in me. And I'm like, ignited has to be there. Like some
Mhm.
people's flames just get smaller or they go out. And if you can remember who you are, remember what you like, for moms, for example, we get so wrapped up in what our kids need and us taking
Mhm.
care of them and doing all of the routines and taking all of the duties. There's so many hats, it's insane. And
Right.
so we get lost in that and forget who we are as individuals.
Yeah.
And it's super important that you keep your flame ignited with what you have, with what your values are, what your joys and happiness is as you,
Mhm.
as Shauna, as Lisa, right? We need
And
to
not
keep
just a
that.
mom, but like who we
Yeah.
are
Like
individually.
mom is a whole big role that's not going away. Like that job is not stopping. And if you let your flame go out, when they leave, what do you have?
Yeah.
You're like,
Exactly.
wait, hold on. What's my favorite food? Do I have a
Yeah.
favorite color anymore? What do I like to do? I don't know. And it's just natural for us to do that because we're mothering. That's what it is. Like, that's totally natural. So I feel like the work is to remember, oh, wait, I do like to do this. I do like to have these moments by myself, or I do like to read, or I do like to go on hikes, or I do like to go on trips. And then, like, working through that to not feeling guilty, right? Moms
Mhm.
feel guilty. Oh, I shouldn't be leaving my kids. I'm a firm believer that yes, when you have children, you mother your children, but that doesn't mean you self-sacrifice your entire self to be a
Right.
mom.
Right. Well, and sometimes the time that you leave those kids is the learning moment they needed that they can stand on their own and also be independent. And you need to teach your children that aspect also.
Right. Recharging your battery, that's what I call it. You need to
Right.
recharge, whatever that may be for you. Is it the trip? The nap? Is it the girls' night? Is it an overnight by yourself? Anything. You need to recharge your batteries to show up your best
Mm.
self and run from a full tank and not an empty tank with your kids. And they're going to see you doing things before they hear you teaching them. And
Yeah.
if you are self-sacrificing, 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 what are they going to do? You literally pass a baton to them. For example, I go on these trips, I call them epic adventures, and I
Mhm.
go on at least 3 of them a year and I spread them out. And my kids know, they're like, "Oh, is this a long one or a short one?" And I was like, "Well, this one's 3 days," and I'll like explain it to them or whatever. And then I come back and I share my experience with them. And so they're included in the end part of it, right? But they are fully aware that I need to go do this to help me, to fill me up, to make me be a better mom so I'm not
Yeah.
crabbing. And they're like, "Oh, okay." Like they're like, "Oh, I
We
get
get a
it,"
better mom when you're done with this. We get the better mom, right?
Yeah, and it's, of course, kiddos at times, depending on your kiddo. Like one of my kiddos is like, "Oh, do you have to leave?" But then once I leave, it's fine. It's just that one little interaction.
Mhm.
And so again, that takes practice. I think as moms, we start from the beginning when we go, if we work from outside of the home or what have you, if we leave our kiddos, it's hard to leave them. So every time it's hard to leave them, but once you practice and then there's like a routine of, see, I'm leaving to go do this for me. And then you're showing them leading by example. But then it gets easier because they understand, oh, you are coming back. Oh, this is okay. This is our time to have fun with grandma or auntie or uncle or, whoever is with them. And that can be their special time with whoever is watching them, as well as, you filling yourself up to come back. So I think it's super important that we remember that. And that's why I said ignited, right? Is because we kind of snuff out that flame, we forget, and it's important to reignite that and burn that bigger. And however that works for you, whatever that works out to be, but it's super important so you don't forget you while being a mom. It's not an either or, it's an and. It's a
Yeah.
yes and situation. It's not an either or situation.
So true. And that is applicable too for those people that are married. They forget to pour into their marriages. So
Yep,
when the kids are out of the house, all of a sudden they look at each other and they don't know who are you?
absolutely.
Why are you in my house? So
So true.
so
So true.
we need to remember our own flames. We need to remember the flame of our marriages. And we need to remember, like you said, there's multiple hats. And we have to remember that on occasion, we need to take off one hat and put on another one. Let some focus be on the marriage, or let some focus then for a while be on just yourself. And maybe there's other things in your life. Maybe I have to just let this time be a focus on my mom because mom is ill and I need to just let her attention be my focal point for a while. So yeah, I love that the ignited piece of it really gives you that visual of the candle flame going out when it's running out of oxygen.
Yeah, yeah. I like how you said too that sometimes it will be with your marriage or sometimes it will be with your mom, because that's very true. Sometimes the things that fill you up are with other people. It's not necessarily you alone. That is an aspect of it, but it can also be with other people. It's, what fills you up the most, as long as you're taking time to do that, is the important piece.
Yeah, good word for sure. Good word. Yeah, and all of these things, the health of our relationships, the health of our self-talk, all of that really does affect our physical health and our well-being, our whole well-being picture. So it is worth spending time. I loved the challenge that you offered for people to really try to capture and pay attention to the things that we're saying to ourselves. And I'm going to do that myself because I think it's a valuable revelation to go through that exercise to see, well, let's just experiment and see. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. And to use that as a springboard to keep pouring into my wellness, my complete wellness as an individual.
Can I add to that just to
Yeah.
balance out on the other side? Okay.
Mm.
Because I love the challenge because it helps you find your thoughts, right? But that is all the negative things you were saying to yourself. So how I balance that out to make it to help you reframe also is the amount of things that you wrote down for your thoughts. You need to come up with the amount of things that you like about yourself, whether it's
Okay.
skill, what you do for other people, things that you like about yourself also. So then you have two equal parts, because this, like, you do 25 thoughts, let's say, I want you to write 25 things that you like about yourself. So when some of these thoughts come up, I bet you there's something on this list that you can reframe it. So then you don't have to be like, oh, but how am I going to reframe that? Because sometimes it can be a struggle when your thought is always this one negative thought, And so if you can write those down and you have those, you can use that thing that you like about yourself to help you reframe this negative thought so you can retrain your brain.
Beautiful. Yeah. So balancing out that thought inventory of the negative side, balancing that out with the positive things that
Yes.
maybe you don't even believe them yet, but they are the
Yes.
opposite thought pattern of the one that you wrote down. So you can start reprogramming those neural pathways and get your brain to start seeing the good in yourself again.
Yeah. And if you're struggling with finding those positive things that you like about yourself, ask the people that you are comfortable with that are closest to you. Like, what do you like about me? What makes me a good person? Or what, ask them. And whether you believe it or not, just write it on the paper.
Yes.
Just write it on the paper.
Yeah. Yeah. In that moment, your opinion doesn't really matter.
Yes.
If someone else believes you are beautiful, strong, and capable and encouraging, it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. If you are that to that person, write it down.
Yes.
Really important. Wonderful. Well, I love having you on the program. I love having you here. And I'm so excited to let people know how to find you, because I think you've got such a great coaching business. How can people locate you so they can connect with you?
Well, first, I want to say thank you for having me. It was a very good conversation, and I love chatting with you.
Yes, likewise.
Mm, How people can find me, I would say the best option would probably be my website, because everything is there. My podcast is there. All my freebies are there. Any of my information that you want to know is all on my website. So it's www.igniteddecisions.com.
Okay.
And you can get all of your information from there. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, but you can click it on my website if you wish to find it easier, as well as my podcast.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, that's a great place for people to connect with you. And before we go, we'll wrap up here shortly, but before we go, is there any surprise along the way that really hit you or has been maybe a pivot point for you that you think might be helpful for other people?
Um, I think for me, it was just paying attention to my thoughts, really understanding what I was telling myself
Yeah.
was a huge pivot point for me, as well as when things are hard, that you can get to it to the other side, and practicing those particular tools that you have in your toolbox is going to make it easier and smoother, even when it feels impossible.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, I know we're going to have you back sometime in the future, Shauna, but I so appreciate your time and your energy and all the great ideas that you had to share with our audience today. So thank you very much for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
What a great conversation. I just love chatting with Shauna because she's so real and approachable. I've got 8 takeaways for you today. Number 1, if it hasn't sunk in yet, I'll say it again. Your mindset is everything. What you're thinking is everything. You could be your biggest cheerleader, or you could be the one person that's really holding you back. You can't change every circumstance around you, but you can change how you think about yourself and how you encourage and show up for yourself. Number 2, everything we do and how we do it starts with a thought, including how we go to work, how we parent our kids, and how we respond to good news, bad news, and everything in between. Your ability to weather any storm will depend in a large part of how you choose to frame the event. Choose to see the positive, even when you don't feel like it. Be excited to go to work. You get to provide for your family, and you get to give back to society. Choose to be excited for your children's homework. They are learning. You are learning, and it's a chance to make memories with those young adults. Choose a positive framework for your life, and your outcomes will improve. Your attitude will improve. And yes, even your health will improve. Number 3, take Shauna's mindset challenge. Dedicate 1 day or maybe 2 and keep track of what thoughts you're saying to yourself. When you think or hear something in your mind about what you're saying to yourself, write it down. Don't judge it or edit it, just write it down. At the end of the day, review your list. Balance out any of those negative thoughts by reframing them in a positive way. So if you told yourself, ugh, you look fat, or those jeans look horrible on you, balance it out by saying, you're looking fit and healthy. And man, you're rocking those jeans today. It doesn't matter if you believe it yet. These are the thoughts you're going to believe very soon. Number 4, build a relationship with that mean girl or the brain dragon inside of you. You can rewire that voice so it's no longer showing up in a way that will damage your confidence, your self-worth, and ability to take on your dreams. Rewire that voice to show up in a way that's building your confidence. Number 5, have a plan for your dips, your peaks, and your valleys. What are you going to do when you hit those highs and lows? Imagine the worst outcome. What will you do? Who will you call? Could you ask them in advance of that worst case scenario? And what about the best case scenario? Who are you going to share and celebrate with? Think through how you'll handle the dips, or the potholes, and the peaks and the valleys, and everything in between. Number 6, you got to get uncomfortable for growth. So get prepared. When you feel like you just don't want to do anything, what are some small things you can do to just move yourself out of that stuck frame of mind? Go for a walk. Do a couple jumping jacks. Call a friend. Reach out to a pastor, a counselor, or a trusted advisor. Put on some great music. Anticipate those moments, because in life, there's one thing that's pretty sure. We're all going to feel uncomfortable, and we're all going to have the dips. That's the point. That's how we learn. So what are you going to do next time to move and learn and grow through it? Number 7, in every situation, somewhere hiding in the darkest corner of that event, there is light. Even if it only is a tiny little speck in that big, huge storm, but there is something positive there. A lesson that you learned, or some joy that you experienced, the opportunity to love, memories that were made, perhaps a pain you went through and endured that someday you're going to be able to help another. Look for that speck of light. It is there, my friend. Finally, number 8, and this one's for you, moms and dads. Being a parent doesn't mean you have to neglect yourself or each other. Teach your kids by example and show them what good self-care is all about. Be willing to take a day away for yourself or for each other, for your marriage. Give your kids opportunities to make memories with their extended family members or a trusted friend who can watch them for the night or maybe a weekend if you're lucky. But don't lose yourself. Don't forget to recharge. It will help you be a better parent. It'll develop resilience in your kiddos to know that when mom or dad leave, they are coming back, and that mom and dad are going to be even better parents for having had a little time away. Thanks again for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to share it. And if you found it valuable, please consider writing a quick review here wherever you're listening or watching the episode. Those reviews can really help others who are trying to find the same information. God bless you, and thanks for listening. Have a great week.